doing micro-credentialing
Right.
or badging for adults.
Yep.
I mean, I've seen a lot more of that.
Yep. And so I think you're already there, but yes, bit.ly/BPL site under competencies and adult badging. It looks like you're in under editing as well. So if you want to switch over to just the view part of it, we can get that started. But essentially what we need to do, and actually I need to change this, is because we need to move from our defining phase and definitions into our piloting phase with adult badging. Hey, Kevin. And so our ability to do that is going to be aided by actually using a adult badge canvas.
Okay.
And so that's what we want to do. I'm going to ungroup this so that I can grab this guy. And
So if you go to Bitly or his site,
Yeah.
I don't know how, and then what's it under?
so look at that. We are now in pilot for, oh, I did the wrong one. Sorry. For adult badges, which is super awesome. And that means that we are going to start looking at specific badges. That was part of our work last time. And I'm not sure if you were able to be here this last time around, but we looked at the specific badges from the Digital Promise site. So if you go down to value proposition and click on the use these micro-credentials on the site, what shows up are all of these pretty robust value propositions. So if you keep going,
I just gotta go far enough.
there you go. And it's the first link under value proposition to the right there. Use these micro-credentials. Do you see it in the bullet?
Oh, sorry.
You're fine. I hide things, so
Well, I was
you know,
looking over here.
it's good. So if you click on that, you'll see it open up as all of these different micro-credentials that are, you know, pretty robust. And so we went through a bunch of these. I heard from Amanda that she's actually going to be looking at this collaboration one from Educators Rising as the thing that she is going to start to try and pilot with a couple of different teachers. And I encouraged everyone else to find one that they would either want to pilot or that they would really like to re-engineer for our purposes. So one of the things that has come up really recently is that we actually have a lot of content that and a lot of professional learning experiences that are also things we want to credential that are not found within these things that already exist. And we need a way of constructing either from existing micro-credentials, right? The ones that are here, or ones that are from our content. So you were working with Jim Hogan, right, on Cultures of Thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So if he is developing from the Cultures of Thinking or any of the math ICs, they would like to start badging the skills of the Cultures of Thinking, which are highly aligned to our 21st century skills. They are highly aligned to just good practice in general. And so what I wanted to do was essentially do a riff on that. Maybe that's not the right word for this moment. A variation on the badge canvas that is specific to adult learning. All right, you ready for it? Excited? All right, so up under development, we are moving from definition phase to pilot phase. And there is a link there that says, please make a copy of this badge canvas to start the work of piloting your own badges. All right, so it's up near the top under development. And the thing that I want to do today, especially as we are a smaller crew, is rather than actually starting the work of inputting this, I would like to get some feedback on the canvas itself, as this is very much a prototype. All right, so we're going to talk about the questions that are here. Are there better questions to be asking? Okay. Are there different questions? You know, are there revisions? Everybody should have comment rights or suggesting rights.
Did you say make a copy?
Make a copy if you want to do this yourself,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like if you actually want to start the work of creating a badge, right, for yourself. but I want to talk about this as a badge canvas for professional learning and allow this to sort of be something that we get some feedback on, as it is very much a prototype. All right, let's go through the questions and kind of talk about them. So this one over here, what is the professional learning content? I thought might be valuable, as most of the folks that start with professional learning already have that content, either like a touchstone text, like the Cultures of Thinking book, or they have a, a particular chunk of content that is already built. And so sort of identifying that. Does that make sense as a question that we would ask?
I think so.
So let's take the example of what you were doing with Jim. Do you feel, what do you feel like, and maybe you could do it because you were there, or we could take what we did earlier this week with exit criteria. Like, if I'm doing this, what is the professional learning content?
Is this recording?
Yeah.
Okay, I was blocking it.
Oh, no. I'm recording the screen, recording here. If you'd rather it go towards Kevin, that's fine. It's a really nice look, Kevin. I like it. Yeah, no, we're fine. But like, essentially, do you feel like it gets at what it would need to, like, if I'm writing in just exit criteria, is that enough for you to know, like, what is the content, right? So does it need to be more specific, or do we chill with that one?
I think I like details. Maybe not everybody does, but
What kind of details would you want if you're building out like a badge around this piece of content?
oh, and this is the badge.
Right. So this is
Is
the
naming
badge
the
for
badge
this. Right?
that?
What's that?
Would this be kind of the name of the badge?
So the badge name we've just got up here, but like essentially, like if I'm saying exit criteria and that's it, then that's not really content. It is a like topic.
Yeah.
Right. And so how is it that we might be able to ask folks more clearly, like, what is the content that you are trying to uncover, or what is the content? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was struggling with, like, how do you get people to recognize that the content is not just the topic, it is also like literally like, what are the resources that you would use? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of. Like let's do an example. Let's try to work through an example.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah,
hard
we
to
got you.
visualize. Because I got the other badge canvas open too, so I'm kind of comparing the
Yep.
two. So let's do, I don't know, exit criteria. Like choose something. Like let's try to unpack that. So
Okay.
do you want to do?
Yeah.
I mean, exit criteria
Yeah, because
I
was
feel
something
like
that
I
we
know,
did earlier
yeah.
this week, right? So
So is the answer to the question, what is the professional learning content? Is the answer exit criteria, or is it something deeper than that?
I
Is
think
it-
it's deeper.
Because what are we
Yeah.
trying to identify with this question? Is this like shaking out like what the criteria is for earning
Or
the
is it
badge,
more
or
the
the
outcome?
skills?
it's definitely
What
not,
skills?
because we have skills sort of
You have that
next
one,
to it,
Yeah, I see
right?
that.
But criteria was always a very weird question for me in the original badge canvas, because it's like, well, the criteria for this is the evidence, but there's also a place to put evidence. So I always got confused between the criteria and the evidence on the original badge canvas. And so what I was trying to do is sort of separate that out a little bit and say, all right, so what is the content? So if I'm writing this out for exit criteria, I'm saying
Mhm.
that it is and I would go maybe as specific as possible, right? I want to badge unpacking exit criteria, the
Okay.
content,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm making this, the content itself would be the exit criteria for these particular grade levels, right? And the supporting resources to be able to do that unpacking, right?
Okay.
So we have like the what is exit criteria, like if I'm looking at the
Yeah, that's
things
what I
here,
was
right?
going
So
back to.
we have this set of Google Slides that are there to help understand. So, I mean, it's like all of the, so it's like, what is the professional learning content and resources maybe.
That's what I was, yeah. See, like, I think I'm getting hung up on content, but it sounds like you're talking about resources. So, yeah, I'm just imagining like a user story. So, like, I am a fifth grade teacher. The expectation is for me to understand what exit criteria is, to use that as
And how
far
it
as like
applies to my
understanding what
classroom.
the outcomes of my kids are and where they're going.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I need to be able to unpack that and use that for planning experiences for them, right?
Exactly.
And assessments and all that sort of stuff. So going back to that page that has the exit criteria resources on there, this looks like, okay, here's stuff for me to begin to understand fundamentally, maybe like what exit criteria is and
Right.
what, so am I going to do anything with this? Yeah, eventually when I engage, I guess in
Well, and that's the question below. So what is the experience or activity that will best support this learning, right? So is it a face-to-face, online, or blended? But also, like, what is the experience itself, right? So, we look at the experience as going through online modules and reflecting on your own lesson versus the exit criteria, right? Like, that's the learning experience of sort of unpacking, where I'm comparing my own personal lesson plan with the exit criteria. Do they match? Do they not? And then I'm
reflecting on that. And
right.
Yeah, because that's like when I know you're getting hung up on the criteria and the evidence piece. Like, you don't always need to have evidence to show that you met the criteria. Like, evidence has been something that's optional. Although, like, in our system, we're saying evidence is not optional,
Right.
And so, at least with students, right? So, like, criteria meaning like, what do you need to earn the badge? Like, I think I just heard you say, Ben, like some ways of earning this badge. So if this badge in particular is unpacking exit criteria and comparing to your lesson, then that's what I need to do to earn the badge. So I've got to unpack the exit criteria stuff. So I've got to look at all those resources, engage in that somehow, and then juxtapose that, whatever's in there, to a lesson that I've developed and reflect on that. And that reflection might be the evidence of showing that I met that criteria.
Yeah, I almost feel like the sort of that top left is like the what of the badge, right? Like the do of the badge is kind of like that experience there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Because the what, I mean, if that's like resources that you're going to use to engage to help you to earn the badge, like, okay, I think that starts to make more sense to me. Because I'm kind of thinking about like,
I got that one. You got the other one.
like I'm thinking about like the online learning modules that
Right.
Jackie like developed, right? And some of the other coaches too. And like, just looking at them in general, it's like, all right, so there's this outcome you want to get to, and to get there, we have these things you're going to engage in, right? There's like resources you're going to engage in, there's stuff you're going to do. So I'm kind of thinking like, is the professional learning content and resources like is that the stuff that's going to aid you in meeting the criteria of this badge? Because again, going back to exit criteria 1. So if I'm the user and this badge is all about me demonstrating a skill and unpacking the exit criteria and comparing that, and I don't know if like comparing it to an existing lesson is where you'd want to go. Do you use that to inform the design of a lesson?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're reflecting on current state in order to be able to generate new.
So maybe inside of that, then those are like the 2 things you got to do, right? Is like well, it's 3 things. You're unpacking the exit criteria. You're comparing that to something that you've already done, and all of that and reflecting on it is informing the design of either like revising that or a new design incorporating exit criteria. So maybe the evidence of that meets the criteria of unpacking, comparing, and creating is you've created like a new lesson plan that aligns with exit criteria.
Right, which is where you get, and so we kind of defined the evidence portion for adults as not 1 thing, but actually 2 things, what is the evidence of your professional learning, which I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's absolutely right, like the creation
You
of a new
created a
lesson.
lesson plan, right?
And then what is the evidence of student impact?
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
that
think
we are
that's
really
really
making sure
important
that
to
both
have.
of these things are tied.
That's
right?
a strong, yeah, that's strong. And I wonder, like we'll have to play it out, and like see like
Well,
the
and that's why I
evidence
want
of
to get
student
super
impact.
concrete with
Like
it, right?
does student impact, is that something that shows up immediately? Is that something over
Right.
time? And how do we prepare for that? But I mean,
Well, and this could even be like, how are you going to collect evidence of student impact? It might not necessarily be that you can show immediately.
so I might say that like in my exit criteria, as I've done those 3 things, like my evidence of my professional learning is that I've designed a lesson that takes into the exit criteria.
Right.
And then my evidence of student impact is I'm going to formatively assess my students on like whatever that content was in the lesson that I designed. Could that be?
Seeing if that lesson actually hit that criteria, like how many of them would meet that criteria?
Yeah. So I deliver the lesson. I know that they have to have these certain skills, right, related to these standards. I formatively assess them and I see like where are they at in relation to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot because I think you're right. Like if you are submitting for a badge, you might not have direct impact data unless you have to have the learning experience and then like 6 months later
Right,
you are
yeah.
applying for the badge, which I don't think would be terrible for some things, but for other things, like you want to be able to say, I learned this, I am applying it, I believe that the evidence will come
One
here.
thing that we've always found hard in this position, I think everybody, is how do you measure how technology is impacting it or what you're doing?
Totally.
So
Mhm.
having something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still don't know that answer.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not as like, this is the
You
one
can't take a
answer, right? Like it's
test and
not
yeah.
the one answer for how that
Right.
impacts. Yeah.
And I'm
Okay.
wondering, like, so inside of this this canvas, like, so if I look in the top right corner, why would a school district want an employee to have this badge? And I'm thinking about this exit criteria one. I think, at least for me, it's helpful to use a real life example.
Yeah.
To kind of user story this thing. So I was just thinking that, like, okay, the evidence of student impact might be like by me engaging as a teacher in earning this badge, I've done those 3 things. And then I'm actually like formatively assessing my students to see where they're at as far as like, was that an effective lesson? Are they getting closer to that exit, right?
Right.
That makes me think as like a principal, maybe if I assume the role of a principal now, that we need to formatively assess our students much more often and have like a more clear, high definition picture of where they're at.
Yeah.
And also probably like, when we think about the vision and like the data piece, like the students are able to know like where they stand in relation to that. You only know that if like assessment is happening somehow, right? So I would say for me, as a principal, I would want an employee to have this badge because I know that this badge is maybe fostering a culture of like formatively or just assessing in general more often, increasing the frequency of that,
And
gathering
also,
more data.
I think prioritizing this, because you can't go deeply on 120 standards, So prioritizing which ones they go deeply with. I mean, I know you're supposed to
Right.
try to hit all the standards, but my understanding of this is these are essential.
The exit
for them to
criteria
really
is
get.
essential, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good
Pull one out
call.
that
So
maybe
that's all right. Yeah, I'm hearing you. It sounds like as a principal, this is important for me as well, because not only is it getting my teachers to assess more often and for kids to be able to measure themselves and where they're at, and the teachers as well, it's also like homing in on the essentials.
Yep.
Of
And
what
going
kids need to
deeper
do
on
and going
those,
deeper
I'd say,
because you
yeah.
get spread real thin. Because
Yeah.
we're saying in exit criteria, these are the things that are most influential and important for
Right.
kids to know, right? That's the whole point of it.
Right.
Yeah,
my
that's a great
understanding.
point. Yeah.
So I would say that to me makes a lot of sense as we look at the evidence. The other one that I ended up splitting out in 2 was the skills. And so because we're talking about the adults, I split it out into what are the educators' skills and standards. So whether those are the quality standards or there are some other sort of objective measure of for the educator. And then in addition to the educator skills, what are the 21st century skills that this badge represents? So from our current badge framework, right? What are those skills and competencies under those skills that this would align to? Because I keep on hearing when we are having these conversations that it doesn't work just to have those, right? Collaboration is something that we absolutely want for our teachers, but we also need content level knowledge, and that's not
to what
necessary.
end? Like,
Right.
Well, and I
Yeah.
like that you broke that out, because one of the first things that we talked about was what's in it for the teachers. I get a badge, so what? That we could either align it to, I know one principal said that to get them to buy in, they either need to have it reflect in their pay, give them steps, or help them with RANDA, where this would, with their, not RANDA, but their evaluation. This would provide evidence
Right.
that they could put in there to show that they know that they have that skill and that they have met that.
Okay.
So I like having that up there. I mean, having them be two separate things.
Okay. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, so I'm looking at them right now.
Right.
Just thinking about it's probably actually be better to look at the badge definitions. So I'm still running with the example of like exit criteria.
Right.
Right.
So I'm wondering and I should probably be looking at the quality standards as well.
That's what I was
It's like,
just gonna
okay,
pull out.
so what quality standard does the process of unpacking, juxtaposing, creating, and then assessing? All right, so that probably hits a few things inside of quality
Like
standards.
1H, I know is, the
So we
assessment.
see it
piece,
fit
right?
with that. I'm looking at the 21st century skills. I'm wondering, like with those current ones that we have,
Or
is
3H.
something, is that jiving or what? Like, because if in our criteria we're asking someone to do that as an individual, they're not necessarily like collaborating with somebody on that, or so I like that it's split out. I'm just struggling right now in that example to figure out like.
So let's do that as an example,
Okay.
right? So if I'm just going to look on the stop.
The
Please.
quality teacher standard 1B says teachers plan to consistently deliver instruction that draws on the results of student assessment, that is aligned to academic standards and
Yeah.
advances
So
student
bang,
level of
Bang, right there.
content knowledge. And then H talks about appropriately uses methods to assess what students have learned, including formal and
Sorry.
informal.
It's
So
all right.
now I'm looking at the badge definitions here because they actually drill down to like what's the criteria for each
Correct.
of those
Yeah.
guys. So
So I think inside of critical thinking, inside of invention, inside of information literacy, right? Like
analysis, collect and analyze data to identify solutions and or make informed decisions.
right? Like that's for sure a part of this badge if we're doing exit criteria.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's
Right.
a hard alignment, but for me it was important to call them out separately, right?
Well, and I think if you can't fill both those, then you need to rethink the badge.
Right. If you don't have that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And going back to our alignment to our alignment to the 21st century skills competency progressions.
Mhm.
So that work is all about the student competencies, which are, our badges, and then what teacher moves are supporting those, right? So it's all about aligning these two things together
Mhm.
and how we can better support. So if our adult badges are, working on the educator competencies, but they are also in support of the student competencies and modeling those, right? Like if we are able to model those as educators, as adult learners, then I think we get even closer to sort of the vision of, yeah, these are just the skills.
Because the second two columns on teacher standards is students are doing this part.
That's exactly
you know?
right.
So that's
Mhm.
really where we want them to get to.
Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, let's talk about some of the smaller buckets here. These ones over here are kind of related. Why would someone want this badge? That's talking to the value proposition, but value proposition tends to get weird for people, at least it
Yeah.
has in this conversation. Like, I don't know what the value proposition is, but like, if we just ask, why would someone care? Why would they want this badge? Not why would they want to understand exit criteria? Why would they want the badge for unpacking and understanding exit criteria? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Because you do get hung up with value proposition. That language doesn't, yeah, it's not something that a lot of people really understand what we need.
So
by
what do
that.
you see too as why would they want an exit criteria badge?
Well, I'm wondering, like, as a like a skill currency, what am I able to like cash that in for? Like, what do I get by getting this thing? You know, like, how am I able to use this credential to unlock something? What is it unlocking?
I mean, I can say why they want the learning,
Right.
but why they want the badge other than it's cool, you know, for some people to get badges.
So for me, if I have an exit criteria badge, I mean, obviously and maybe it is just down to the evidence, right? Like, I have evidence that I can use for my evaluation, right? Like, if I have earned this badge, I have been credentialed in this thing that you have said I need to do,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I can provide this as evidence in my evaluation.
That's a good
And-
reason. Yeah, yeah.
And I think that would be motivating for folks. This also speaks to what system are you already using. So the creator of this badge has to consider, all right, so where does this get positioned so that the badge is useful, either for evaluation, for advancement, but like you were talking about with currency, it has to have some
I
currency,
agree.
right, in a system that already exists, not in a new
Yeah.
system of like, I just want to have the digital badge,
Mhm.
things like that. So whether that's portfolio, whether that's evaluation, whether that's advancement, whether that gets me out of some PD that I would otherwise have to take, all of those things I think could go in that bucket,
You could also have them be recognized as a leader in something.
Right.
right? Recognition is another form of incentive, right? Okay. And then this last one over here of why would a school or district, you talked to this a little bit, want an employee to have this badge? Why would a school want, I mean, I could see, I mean, very much from Lori's perspective, right? So she wants folks to be going through this. Whether or
Right.
not we would end up requiring it, we don't know yet.
But
But
it
essentially,
results in a change in practice, right? Like, is it professional development supposed to result in like a change in practice? So,
And it should help take some of the pressure off that they don't have to deeply go into every single standard, because I think a lot of teachers feel that way now.
like you said, focus on the essentials, right? Change in practice. At least in the exit criteria one, like we're
Right.
saying. But I mean, like, also, like, I would say because in the Canvas, we're calling out the evidence of student impact, like, this
Right.
is creating, I don't know, a certain level of like efficacy in what you're doing,
right.
I agree.
or at least like theoretically it is.
I mean, I think it has to, right? Like, I not only have facility with the content, I have the ability to apply that content.
That's the key, because
Right.
that's what we're talking about with like adult micro credentials, is moving away from seat time to competency, right? So competency leads to what? Competency should lead to some kind of results. And if we're talking about professional development, a change in practice, the change in practice positively affects like the students, while at the same time give you all sorts of perks as an adult in that other box.
Yeah, I also see this as, you know, we're talking about moving from centralized to more localized and personalized, right?
Uh-huh.
So this is a way of centralizing the credentialing, but personalizing the learning.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
because how you engage in meeting that criteria, how you engage in like gathering that evidence, like that's totally like how you want to do it in your context, what makes sense for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last bottom right here, these are some, I think this one is pretty clear. Who is the primary audience for this content or badge? Like that's not a hard one. But down here, I was trying to think about sort of further reaching aspects, and these are pulled a little bit from the original badge canvas, but they're sort of a little bit different. Are there any prerequisites for this badge, right? Like things that you need to do first before you engage in this work, right? Do you need to, I mean, and I guess maybe looking at exit criteria, like, do you have to understand your standards before you engage in exit criteria?
Maybe there is a pre-badge to that. That's all
right?
about
Like there's something
standards.
Right? So I don't know if there is something there. And then what's the next level of the badge skill or content? So if we're thinking about it, like once I have the ability to unpack the exit criteria, I'm done, or is there something more that you could be engaging in? Is there like you were talking about leadership
That's what I was
opportunities?
thinking. With any of them, I think sharing with others, you know, maybe working with their team or other people in the school or other schools to share how they did it and sharing their lessons that needed.
Yeah. And they become, I mean, there are a whole host of things, but actually that last activity that we are having people do in that class, in the course, is around leading a plan or something like that with a team, right? But imagine doing that with the whole school or doing that with another school or something like that. So I just want to make sure that there is something here for us to think about what's next. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I'm looking at that as like, so like with our student badges, kids can earn the same badges over and over again, right?
Right.
And like that just keeps unlocking more and more opportunities for them with different partners. So I was thinking like, would someone want to earn the exit criteria badge over and over again because that's creating more evidence for Randa, or does it, is this like a one-time shot? For adults, is it a one-time thing? Is it?
So in the exit criteria example, they could earn it again if they changed grade levels or classes that they were teaching, because there would be different exit criteria, right?
How about one is unpacking it, but another is
So I'm thinking,
deeper,
so maybe the exit criteria is not a good example for what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is like, if you have more than one data point of like evidence of student impact, and you're seriously moving your kids, and because you're doing something like over and over again, like I'm wondering how that can maybe be captured in a credential system.
Well, and so you would think about maybe the first level of any badge is this with a plan for this. And then leveling up is more and more of this.
Because maybe you might have some immediate things, and then maybe there's stuff that happens over time that you attribute to it or whatever. But yeah.
And by doing all those formative assessments, you learn different things you need to teach or teach in a different way.
I like that idea of leveling up means more student impact.
Yeah, right. Because I'm just imagining, like, why would a school district want an employee to have this badge, and going back to that again? Is like the more badges, theoretically, I think, the more badges that teachers are earning, and if we tag them appropriately, like with the quality standard and 21st century skill, alongside like what the actual badge is, like our criteria, we can go in and mine that. Imagine like in a couple of years, you've got like thousands of badges that have been earned across the system. And we go in and we start to mine that, and we're looking for people who've like leveled up on like evidence of student impact, certain things. And we're basically then like creating opportunities
Database.
potentially for them in different ways that it's like, we see the skills that you have and we value that. And now we're going to provide some opportunity. Like we need others to like learn from you, like those
Yeah.
sorts of things.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly,
Yep.
I think so too. So that brought up, why would you want them to have the badge? Maybe so you can show that you do value it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
why do
Yeah,
you
for
want,
sure.
you know? I think the
That-
school district wants to value skills that teachers have.
Yeah.
Because that really needs
And
to
we-
be done right
And we
now.
need to value teachers who are making an impact with their
Right,
kids, right? And so this is a way, in my mind, for us to be able to draw forth that in a certain way, right?
you know, and sometimes when I'm working with teachers, they'll be like, I need to see that in, you know, like last year, remember I took some Vassar teachers over to watch Johnny at Arkansas because they needed to see it done with students.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
and one of the values he got out of it was because he had done so much, we paid for him to go to ISTE, but then in return he shares. You know?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
But I think teachers need to know that they're valued in some way.
100%. Right. Like that's
And
not
when we're
a.
looking for like teacher partners or like these leadership
Exactly, that
positions, like
leads
we
to-
actually have created like a pool of skills that you can start to be like, you know, maybe you're interested in the job, but maybe I'm going to you and saying, hey, like you have those skills and you're interested and you're being proactive about it, but you maybe not. I could say, hey, I see you have these skills. Like you might want to go for this job.
So some opportunities for advancement.
Well, and that gets at this last question here too of who should endorse this badge,
Yeah,
right? So specific departments within APS, organizations that are outside of APS, universities that would sort of cross-reference these badges and say, this is a credential that we think has credence.
so maybe they're going for their masters and with some of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, you know, some of these, so let's say like National Writing Project, let's say, right?
Yep.
So there are certain skills that they're trying to build in teachers and all that, right? And so there's certain stuff that they value. So maybe we have badges that like align with that. And they say, we totally endorse that. And that means whatever they want that to mean, but there's a connection to that. Or like with university, like you're obviously taking classes, like supposed to develop certain skills. And like UNC sees that. They say, yeah, we're gonna endorse these badges. I don't know where that goes though.
I
Like,
don't
does
either.
does it do something at the university? Does it do something for National Writing Project? Like what, you know, I don't know, but I mean,
That would
But
be a
just like
goal
Josh
for it.
does he's lining up endorsers to endorse these badges for students and provide opportunities.
that's what
Like,
it is.
it
They're providing opportunities.
And I think that speaks to like, we need to maybe look at what supports do we need to have for people doing this? Because I think piloting, like, yes, we can do some piloting
Right.
and we're going to do that. But as we look towards doing this in a much larger way in the coming years, do we need a Josh, but for adult badges,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do we
Mhm.
need a digital badge partner for adult badges?
Yeah, Yeah.
Where we're sort of looking at this as the whole ecosystem, right?
yeah, totally. Well, you know, like so in the history of the student badges, like at first, like we didn't start with endorsement. We started with, what do we call it? Basically, we were just trying to get like partners to just recognize that they appreciate these skills.
Right.
That was it, right? So there was we weren't asking partners to like create an experience for kids and it's going to unlock any of that. It was just simply, you appreciate these skills and by you having your name associated to our system is like creating some like a different level of legitimacy and interest in like the users who are participating in it. So, you know, like even at the beginning of the adult one, it could be that National Writing Project and Center for Teacher, you know, Quality and UNC, like they see these skills, they say, these are important skills that teachers need to have. We're down with that. And so we support, I think that's what we were calling it. It's like, you're a supporter. But then we said that was the first step. That was the entry point to then moving supporters to endorsers, where endorsers are actually
Providers.
creating opportunity for the users to like cash in and engage.
Yeah.
So it could be the same
Yeah.
sort of approach. We're just saying like, hey, these competencies that we say are important, others say are important too.
Even getting into a master's program, this might give you a way to help you.
Right, that also creates a pipeline for them potentially for
Yeah.
folks who are
They're
looking to.
working with us.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. So I think that one is maybe a little further reaching, especially as we're
too.
looking at pilot. But the last thing I want to do is think about anything that is missing. And I wanted to bring up the badge canvas from Digital Me, which I think you've had pulled up this
When
whole
you
time.
have
But
that
what is
endorser
missing?
where it says specific departments, maybe within the school. Oh, who should endorse? Yeah, maybe not. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I like that idea though of like, are there school level endorsements potentially that might be able to do that as well? So are there any things that are missing either from the original badge canvas here, or that you're just like, you know, this is an important question that we need to be asking ourselves as we are building out badges?
Where was the original one?
Sorry, I've got it projected if you want to look.
I'm sorry. Oh, I see. We don't have the channel part there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we didn't really have that for our student one either. Like, the user find out about your badge. Like,
I don't
we have a
know if
website. We
need
have,
it.
yeah.
right.
Like,
So I think that is an important question, but it's not necessarily important for every badge that is developed. That's
Yeah.
more like,
system.
like how are we doing this as a system to promote the idea that you can earn these badges, right?
Bless you.
Bless you.
Well, and up here we did say, you know, who's the audience.
Right.
So then in there.
That's
we
true,
figured
too.
that out. Are you thinking Credley still?
Definitely.
So that touches that.
Yeah.
So I do. Okay, I know you said earlier, Ben, you're getting hung up on evidence and criteria. It's going to be important to explicitly say on the adult badge, like, what is the criteria? What is the thing you need to do to earn this badge?
What is the thing you need to do in
What
order
is
to
stuff
earn the
you need to
badge?
do to earn this badge?
So where it
So-
says, what is the level, what is the evidence of professional learning, those two, you don't think? that's-
Because for me, it is if you have produced evidence of
Right.
your professional learning and of the student impact, then that is the criteria. If you have the evidence, you have met the criteria. How do you see those two things as different?
Okay, so, all right, so now I'm looking at our badge system again, right?
Right.
Okay, so like innovation, that journey badge, it says applies existing knowledge to generate new ideas, products, or processes. Okay, so we're saying that if you're gonna earn that, you need to do that. So you're gonna provide us evidence of you doing that.
Right.
But that evidence will be obviously, maybe your evidence is different than her evidence, but we could say that you applied it. So I'm just looking at this and it's like, they don't say like provide evidence of creating original works as a mean and personal group. Maybe I'm just getting hung up on this. I don't know, but
To me, that's an important distinction, and I think maybe
don't-
you and I need to like sort of duke it out on evidence versus criteria, because I think there might be an important distinction, but I'm like, the only criteria I care about is if they have evidence of their learning and evidence of student impact.
And within the class, it would be more specific, right? Or was it-
Right. Yeah. I mean, in the actual experience part of it, and maybe that's where criteria comes into is
okay.
like there is this experience, this learning experience that you have, that you are engaged in, and that is the, you know, like you have to engage in some kind of learning experience in order to be able to produce the evidence. And once you have the evidence, you submit for the badge.
Yeah, it's okay. All right. So when you put it that way, that makes me think like, so I'll go with the exit criteria one again.
Yes.
So like to earn the exit criteria badge, the criteria is, you know, the teacher will unpack exit criteria or whatever that first part was. Like
Yeah.
learn about exit criteria, compare it to the existing lesson or unit that they've already done, and then design for exit criteria with the future lesson, and then
Right.
assess students to make sure that you have student outcomes. So like that would be the criteria of earning the badge. And then your evidence part is actually showing like reflection around the juxtaposition and an actual design, and then also student data or something for the assessment part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
And so I think maybe it is
drawing
in
out.
sort of figuring out these two questions, which I don't think are fully exactly what they need to be, these two that are the criteria there. What is the professional learning content and resources? What is the experience or activity that best supports this? So I think that that's probably where criteria lives.
Because like that bottom box, I guess, is like the modality of how you're
Right.
engaging
How are
in the
you
experience.
doing the do?
But so that's where I was getting kind of hung up on the top left box. I was thinking like, because looking at the other badge canvas, it's like criteria is that first box. It's like, what do you need to do to earn the badge? All right. And usually with these things, you don't have a huge laundry list of stuff that you got to do. Keep it more granular, right?
So I kind of agree, it's not just whether it's face-to-face, online, or blending, but it is, what are they?
Yeah, and I think maybe this parenthetical is getting in the way.
That may be even a different question.
Okay. All right. So
What's
I
the
want
best
to
way to
yeah,
do it?
make
Okay.
sure that we get over to our other
What time is
appointment
it?
here. We're at time.
Oh yeah.
but-
So yes. Okay. So I can see now like what we described as like our hypothetical exit criteria badge and what you would actually have to do, like those 3 steps plus the 4th student step.
Yep,
That would be the experience or activity that best supports that learning.
that's exactly
I
right.
think so.
So I'm
Not
gonna
what
read-
format, but-
Sort of rejig those, but our goal here for this next time is actually to try and put something in that you are working on, something that I am working on, something that you are working on, a piece of professional learning that you would want to badge. And we're probably going to do this a couple of different times, and I'm going to look for maybe times where there's not other major meetings that people can come to.
So I have, I think, the week after spring break. that we
Yeah,
need
so
to-
we'll see if that's gonna keep or
Okay.
not, but I just wanna make sure that we are able to do this together, and that there are at least, my hope is around 10 of us who are trying to fill this out for a context that
It's
actually
Gretchen
makes
could do
sense.
that cultural
Exactly right.
thinking, and Sam and Ryan have the.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna follow up with those folks and make sure that we've got this, but let's head over to our other location.
I might consider like just food for thought, like starting with, I mean,
That one,
people start like in the top left corner, which is whatever.
but like moving that one up to the
make
top.
this the most predominant thing, because that's
Kinda
the
like
thing
that.
you have to, that's like what you have to do, right? That's like where it all begins. And the